Well, hello and welcome to Kate with Intention. Now, last year when I spoke to Adrian about creating Built to Last, we spoke about, I kind of pitched to him, let's do the podcast together, let's have some episodes together, let's have some solo episodes, and let's maybe have some guests in the future. Of course, listening back to episode 1, he said no, but I'm very persuasive, and here we are. He did his first solo episode last week, and my turn this time. And it's been 18 months since I've recorded an episode of my podcast, Life and Business in Flow, which ran for 4 years. I paused it, was going to bring it back last year, had this idea, and here we are. It may come back one day, it may not. We're just rolling with it. But today I wanted to talk about conditioning versus intention in life and business. And I think someone who has, had however many years, I can't remember, 10, 15, working for someone else before starting the business 8.5 years ago, there is a certain type of conditioning and expectation that comes along with that kind of employment in a lot of roles, in a lot of businesses. For me, that looked like many hours overtime. If you left on time, you basically left early. If you asked to do something simple like go to a chiropractor's appointment, you were looked at like you were the worst person in the world, even though you had maybe forgone lunch, not taken RDOs, worked longer hours, whatever it might be. There was always the expectation that you could have been doing more or should have been doing more. And there was also, it played into, I know especially for women, a lot of, let's just say like, self-worth or worthiness issues where we wanted to feel worthy. We wanted to appear like we were giving. We wanted to appear or to feel that validation and that self-worth by doing that work and getting the praise. And what I've seen is we've now taken that into the way that we run our businesses. And for me, when I started my business, I knew that it had to be different. I had given my all to other people's careers and businesses. I've always been very entrepreneurial. I love business, and I always embedded myself and tried to almost pretend like the business was mine, like not trying to take over, but like I cared so much. And while that's an amazing quality, it also led me to complete burnout, exhaustion, a lot of health challenges, completely losing myself, disconnected, just unhappy. And also, I think a lot of, which I look back now, wings clipped, kept to a certain level and never quite getting to where I wanted to go. But having the understanding now, it wasn't my soul's path. So I was never meant to have progressed any further in that. And that's why I felt such a frustration around that. There's a lot of knowledge and understanding, I guess, hindsight. So I don't begrudge that. They were lessons and they were learnings. And I had to go through and experience that along with some other things early on in my business journey to be now the mentor that I am and to support women in the way that I do. And so when I started my business at the end of 2017, happened very organically, no plan to start a business, left full-time work 6 months before our wedding, worst time financially. And Adrian said, you need a resume. I said, I don't, which sounded crazy at the time to him and to everyone else, but I just knew something would work out. And I knew that there was something bigger in me and that I was ready to expand into something. And so when I did start the business, it was, industry specific within the interiors space and consulting and helping women in that area. And it expanded over time, which I'll come back to. But in those early years, there was a lot around learning how to run a business. How do I manage life with that? My relationship. I got really unwell less than 12 months into the business. I think it was about 4 months after I got married. I had some really strong antibiotics, and I'm not someone who would normally take antibiotics and haven't since. And they made me incredibly unwell and set off a chain of events with my hormones and all sorts of things and a lot of weight gain and inflammation and a lot of health issues, and had me in bed basically for a month. And as much as it was a very frustrating journey and regret around taking those, I feel like it happened for a reason, because I think that this is part of my soul's journey and my purpose here. And the more that I've learned and I understand that I was meant to go through these challenges to learn how to run a business in the way that I did, to now be able to help women and some men that I'm supporting to be able to run their business in that way. And so what that looked like was okay, I have far less output, I have a lot less energy, I have to find the simplest way and the most effective way to move things forward. And to me, that looked like setting up really strong foundations. I got really clear in the beginning around, process, the pricing, what my offerings were. I set up a cash flow spreadsheet in QuickBooks in the first weeks of my business. And some people don't set that up for, a year or two in. I just wanted to be across that and to know that and to have complete clarity around that really early on. So I think that there was a real journey around the foundations, around self-trust, around, trying to heal my health. There was an interstate move in that, which was not planned. We made the decision in hotel quarantine in 2020 to come back for a few months and made the decision then to, hey, what are we going back to? So an interstate move and nursing and losing mum and Adrian starting a business in that time as well. So there's one of those things is like, there's always going to be life doing its thing behind the scenes. So this is where we need to run the business from a place of simplified, great foundations, great self-trust, and a great support team. But going back to what I was saying before around the being intentional versus that conditioning, what I'm saying with that conditioning is that it's been taken into how we run our business. I need to overgive to feel like I'm of value and worthy. Not ever factoring in time off, because if we're not working, we're not making money, which says we're not across our cash flow. Just not scheduling the time off, the days off, trying to be really in our masculine and keep hustling and trying to AI, ChatGPT, and market our way to good business, when that's never going to happen because there's not the foundation behind it. So we can bring more in, but if we can't hold it, there's going to be cracks. And I had a conversation with a client last week, which really got me thinking about this conditioning, and it's something that pops up often. She said to me, I've created a great team. I've got a great business. There's some other things that I want to start to work on. It's not a full pivot, but there's some other things that I want to work on. But it means I'm going to have to spend more time working from home to create the space to do that. I can't be in the office because it's too distracting. But how do my team and my family feel about that? And they perceive that mum can just stay home. So why can't I just stay home? Because staying at home is perceived as not really working. And I get that as someone who's worked from home for 8.5 years, that some people respect and understand the value of that. Some people don't, of what that looks like. And that's cute. You work from home, but there's many, many multi-million-dollar businesses run from home. So I think that there needs to be a mental shift around that of working from home isn't a cute little Etsy startup. There's a lot of incredible businesses run from there that we are allowed to make decisions that support ourselves no matter what anyone else thinks. And this is something I've been very clear and very intentional on. And I shared a post about this a week or so ago. I don't start work before 11 o'clock on a Monday morning. Fridays are quite a flexible day. I have set days with clients. I have set time off that I take. I don't do any more than, say, 10 to 12 weeks without a week off to work on the business, to reset for me, to do some things around the house, maybe go away for a day or two. Who knows, whatever it needs to be at that time, because in the role that I'm in, there's a lot of giving and a lot of heavy conversations and a lot of love and care. And I need to fill my tank to be able to then do that and to think about what's next in the business. So it's something that I really want women to think about. Where are you sitting in the conditioning of, I need to be 9 to 5, I need to work every week, I have to just be hustling to get anywhere, I can't work from home, or I can't, go and spend a day at the cafe, or I can't have a night away by myself? Like, what are all the stories that you're telling yourself that are really just not supporting you at all? Because there is a new way of running businesses and getting really intentional. And we've seen what's worked for women and we've seen what hasn't. And, for a lot of us that have been in this for some time, I've been at 8.5 years now, we've ridden the wave of the boss babe, the hustle culture, and we've just seen how much that hasn't worked. And I'm now supporting a lot of women through that who are pivoting, transitioning, closing businesses, scaling back, growing, whatever it might be, but they're doing it in a way that really serves them because they've realized that they were doing it from a place of what they thought they should be doing, not what actually worked for them and not what was the best for them or for their families. And so I guess this is an invitation to start to get really intentional, to look at what really matters, to look at what you value, to look at how you would like to live your life. Is there any joy and happiness? Is there any peace and space? Are you able to take care of your health? How are you feeling? Is there a joy? Is there a vitality in your life? And for me, I'm probably feeling now, I would say the best that I've felt in life and business. It's taken time. Life has taken its tolls, and it's, there's been setbacks, but that's all a part of the journey and the learnings and the lessons. But right now I'm feeling probably the best I have mentally, physically, mentally and spiritually, definitely I would say the best place, and physically on the way. I've been seeing a PT for 6 months. I'm starting to have some of the inflammation leave my body, which has been holding on for dear life for a few years now. We're doing the work to start to shift that. And I feel just more at peace. And I was reflecting on that with a friend in business last week, and she was saying, I need a wine. Like, it's been a big day. And I was like, I can't remember the last time I said that. I've probably had a drink, I'd say 5 times in the last 3 months, and sometimes it's only been 1 glass. And if you knew me through, the 2020 and all the things that happened in the world, and through, nursing and losing mum, wine was my best friend there for a while. And to be in a place where I just don't feel like I even need that. Like, I can't really tell you the last time I sort of had a drink at home. And my friend reflected, it was just like, wow, like I can hear in you, Kate, how much you've changed and how much you're at peace and how happy you are in your life and business. But hearing that, like, that's a whole other level of wow. And I know that she wants to get there as well. So it's not something that happens overnight, that we all of a sudden become incredibly intentional in our life, and our business is very different. But for it to happen, we have to know what matters enough and what we value, and to not keep living a life of shoulds and conditioning for what we thought it needed to look like or what success should look like, but to get really clear on what you want life to look like. We only have this one precious life, and old age is not guaranteed. And I don't want it to be that you get to a point where something really bad happens in your health or with your family and you go, wow, I've got to start to make the changes. For Adrian and I, and if you've listened to other episodes, we're getting really intentional with this because we want to be around for a long time. We want to be well, into our 80s and, hopefully 90s if that's, our course in life. But we don't want it to be that our business takes everything from that. And it's the same with your career. If you're employed, we are replaceable. Not everyone's going to run our businesses forever. Some people are, looking to close. You might have them for another 3 or 5 years, or sell, or 8 or 10, or whatever it might be. And if you're in a job right now, maybe you're only going to be in that job for another year or 2. Maybe there's another job. So why are we going above and beyond to give to someone who would very easily replace us next week, or a job that we might leave in 6 months' time? So we need to start to look at what matters more and find the space in there to look after our health, to get the tests done, to set the foundations up in our business, and to start to build the self-trust. Because I think a lot of this comes from the conversations I've had with women lately, and why some of these things aren't being done. It's because of a place of a lack of self-worth, self-love, and self-trust. And it becomes very clear to me to see how women feel about themselves as to how they run their business and their life. Is it all for someone else to give, to be of value? Is it from a place of ego or insecurity or proving to someone? Or is it from a place of genuinely going, no, I matter and I love myself, so I'm going to drop the conditioning, I'm going to drop the stories and the shoulds, and I'm going to become very intentional with how I run my life and my business. And I hope that that's something that you start to take on and start to think about a little bit differently. And I can definitely see that shift in the women that I'm working with, that they're becoming like happier, they're becoming healthier, they're trusting themselves more, they're, making moves that they've been stuck in for a long time, they're rebranding, they're hiring the staff, they're setting up the process, they're getting the onboarding system, and they're doing the things that they need to do because they really understand that they want to take better care of themselves, they want to be a more present mother, and they just want life to be different because they know they can now start to see that it can be and that there's some hope. And I think for a long time, I've seen a lot of women go, well, this is my lot, this is my place, this is how it is, and this is where I'm stuck. And I'm living proof of that. And so are a lot of my clients, that you don't need to stay there. Like going back to 2016, 2017, when I was, not well, I still had a lot of burnout then, and I was employed and, living in Melbourne, I thought, sometimes we think, is this it? Is this where it's going to go? To, fast forwarding 10 years now to having so much spaciousness in my life and business, to feeling more at peace, to have a great relationship with Adrian, to be working on physical, mental, and spiritual health. Just to land here, it just, as I said, it's not an overnight fix, but gosh, I just hope it's a journey that people will choose to go on for themselves, because it just gets to be so different. And I think that that's all that I wanted to share today, but I'm very passionate about this work because I just see how needed it is and how many women are unhappy and are sacrificing themselves to keep face or for the perception of others. And that's not something that I'm choosing to live my life by, no matter what anyone thinks of how I do things or where I should be or what I'm not doing or what I am doing, because so much people don't actually know because it's done behind closed doors and it's not actually, on social media and out there in the world. So take this as your maybe cue to get a little bit curious, to start to look at your health a little bit differently, to look what you're valuing, to look where your time and your energy is going, and to just think, what small change could I make to just bring a little bit more peace and joy back into my life, to be a little bit more intentional, and to not let the conditioning of past bosses, partners, businesses, family stories be what keeps you stuck and keeps you living a life that isn't one that feels good or in alignment for you. So thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed my first solo episode, and Adrian and I will be back with a joint episode in 2 weeks' time, and we will continue to mix it up between solo and conversations together, and maybe we'll invite a guest in at some point. So thank you again for being here. We'll see you in 2 weeks.